Broker Daily Uncut.
Broker Daily Uncut.
News, views and opinion about what's shaping Australia's mortgage and finance industry.
Welcome back to another episode of Broker Daily Uncut. Your host, Jack Campbell here, joined as usual by my co-hosts, Alex Whitlock, Phil Tarrant, coming off the back of the last long weekend for a while, Anzac Day. Did you guys get up to much? Any two-up or dawn service?
I dawn service. I went to a thing during the week with Alex in town at the cathedral right next to Town Hall there for the War Widows, which was pretty cool. And then went to the dawn service on Anzac Day morning, and then I went to a 10 o'clock thing as well with the kids. So it's all pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always a pretty hectic day, early start, and depending on what you're doing throughout the day, can be a long day if you're winning or losing money on two-up or catching up with friends. But it was a good day. Good to see everyone getting in the spirit. Our dawn service we went to was absolutely packed, so everyone getting out there and showing their support.
Which dawn service did you go to?
I went to Petersham.
Okay.
It was at the town hall there, so it was flowing out onto the street. So good to see everyone getting around it. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I was with Phil on Wednesday. Went to the War Widows and their families service, which was very, very moving. You kind of get a very clear snapshot if you've not served, which I haven't, neither's Phil. I think you get a perspective of the sacrifice, very clear perspective of the sacrifice that not just those that serve, but the families that support them sort of make for that, for that very large commitment to Australia. So it was very good. It was a very moving service, wasn't it, Phil?
Yeah, it was good. It's good to go to, and there's still some War Widows.
There's a World War One War Widow.
World War One.
Would you believe? Yeah.
War Widow. Yeah. Yeah, and there's widows there from obviously World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, all the
Afghanistan,
Malay emerged, the more recent wars, and even the widows of the guys that we lost at the Talisman Sabre helicopter crash last year or whenever it was. So really moving service, and they've been doing there. It's called the Field of Remembrance. They've been doing it there for 70 plus years.
Oh wow,
70 plus years. Yeah, it's quite a thing.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before. So do they get the widows to get up on stage and sort of tell their story? Or
no, they don't. It's quite a religious service. They had the head of the Anglican Church there for Sydney. He gave a really good sort of address, and everyone sort of lays wreaths, and there's a lot of politicians there and other people, but it's all about the widows. It's all about the widows, and then they head into have lunch together afterwards and catch up and have a good old chinwag. The governor of New South Wales is the patron for it, so she was there, and so it's quite a lot of military pomp, and it's really nice.
Yeah, nice.
Really nice thing to do.
Well, good to see them carrying on that 70 years. That's a long tradition. Speaking of politicians, it's election week, gearing up for a poll return on Saturday, 3rd of May, and everyone will be casting their votes. As we spoke about last week, you probably, if you've tuned into free-to-air TV or YouTube even, the ads are just ramping up and up and up. You get those black and white ads with the scary music, and either heads of the parties there just getting grilled by another party.
I'm getting text messages from your mate Clive Palmer, which irritate me considerably.
Yeah, it's quite annoying. I've actually been getting a few of those as well from just about every party I think there is.
Even though I know that it will go to a no reply, I sent a reasonably over 18 response when I after having a number of those. So you should leave me alone.
It should be, is that not an invasion of privacy, reaching out unsolicited text constantly? I don't know. It's it's quite annoying, but we won't have to worry about it too much longer, because onto the polls on Saturday, and we'll have a new.
I can't believe that's come around so fast, hasn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's been crazy. It's been a pretty hectic time ramping up to it. All the policies and stuff that we've been covering here on the podcast will finally come to a head, and we'll have one or the other in on Saturday.
Oh, I think it'll be the other.
You think?
No, sorry. I mean, I think it'll be the one.
Yeah.
It isn't going to be the other.
Yeah, well, I think he's 55%.
Just not going to get a change of government after one term. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I'm not going to get involved in politics, but from a sort of a neutral standpoint, I don't think the incumbents have done a sufficiently bad job to be voted out. I don't think that the opposition have got a strong enough case in sort of in the face of that to to upend the incumbents. I think I think, the benefit to Australians would be to leave government in place for a second term unless there is a real stark reason to get rid. Phil?
I think what we're going to see is, the rise of the independents is huge at the moment. Yeah. More people are not voting for one of the primary parties now. And if you look at the long sort of decline of the primary first vote for most Australians being, the Liberal National Party and all the Labor Party, it's just been declining over the last 20 to 30 years. And independents now are really, really strong. Now, they say they're independent, but, they are a cohort. They do connect and collaborate, and it's in its own right, like an emerging third party. Whether or not that'll ever happen, it's not the way politics is structured in Australia. But there's going to be a lot of votes, and there's going to be a lot of seats going to independents or people outside of the coalition or the Labor Party. And what's going to happen then is just a whole bunch of horse trading afterwards, to see and giving weight and preference to the views of those independents. And this is the world we operate in now.
Yeah, well, it's good to see people on the up and coming and, shaking up the system a little bit. But as you would have seen in the Broker Daily Bulletin last week, a lot of safe seats in jeopardy due to housing affordability. That was a big one. So all these independents are coming out in want safe seats, and housing was seen to be a major reason for that. So people are obviously very concerned around housing.
Yeah, whether or not voting for an independent's actually going to help your cause, I'm not too sure about that. But, it's...
I think anyone who thinks that voting in one party or another is going to make any impact on housing affordability is misguided. Which is, like a lot of there's a lot of political parties, a lot of they will try and mislead people into believing that their party will fix certain things that are beyond them.
Yeah, and
they all do.
It's a much bigger issue than when we go to the polls.
Like you look at the interchangeable position around hands up and saying the economy has nothing to do with us, it's to do with external factors. But if it goes in the way that you would like it to go, it's, you're claiming it and you're pinning it on your chest and saying this is down to us and our careful management of the Australian economy. It's Australia rumbles along quite nicely due to the hard work of the vast bulk of Australians, due to the conscientious way that Australians go about work, management of their own finances. It's about Australia and Australians, not about Australia's political parties. That's my 2 cents anyway.
Yeah, well,
the guy that said he didn't want to get political.
I'm not being political, though, am I?
Political, yeah.
But I'm not being political.
It's not about one party. I guess the good point of that is the continuity of Australia, irrespective of who's in power.
Yeah, that's right. That's the point. And both the parties are okay, right? They're both okay. You're talking. They're both pretty central. You've got they bump into each other a lot. They almost have to try and differentiate each other themselves from each other, which I don't think is a bad thing to have sort of a fairly central kind of political landscape.
Well, maybe that's why you got all these independents coming up.
Yeah.
They're so similar with a lot of their
And there's enough about politics. You don't want to talk about politics. You talk about mortgage and finance broking.
Yeah, well, we'll be across the election. It's the last week of it, so hopefully all these promises and announcements that they've been making continue well into their term. But we'll just throw to a quick break. We'll be back after this. And we're back with Broker Daily Uncut now. We had a chat last week about BOQ, about the uncertainty of what they were doing in the broker channel. I managed to get onto their team. Johnny Lockwood, he was on leave, so I'm going to chase him up again this week, but a bit of a statement saying that they are committed to brokers, but it's on pause during digital transformation. Was
still the same message.
Yeah, so they're, revamping all their stuff behind the scenes and apparently don't have time for the broker channel at the moment, but are still, committed on their business finance specialist side.
Do they still have a head of third party, whatever they refer to that role?
Have to look it up, but
can you do that?
Johnny Lockwood. Oh, sorry, Johnny.
For a podcast.
I've lost your official title.
That's all right.
I will reach out this week now that he's back off leave. I'm going to chase you, Johnny. But
I'd be keen to see if, and I'm not very familiar with BOQ on the residential side, so I think if they still have somebody that oversees third party, and if that hasn't changed, then look, that's a positive. Let's get them on the podcast. Let's get them to have a chat to brokers if they remain committed to the broker channel. Let's get them on, have a chat.
Well, what I got from the statement that they sent across was it was much like CBA, a lack of transparency. It admitted lack of transparency and working harder to, mend that bridge, I suppose.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe a podcast would be the best format for.
Look, if they, it's just, I think if you're revamping your digital infrastructure, if you're, improving your proposition for your customers, if you're reviewing the way that you work with brokers and intermediaries, then that's a positive thing. I think just being transparent, and being a little bit contrite at times. I think just putting things on pause and that's it is, it's going to cause speculation from us in the media, us that support mortgage and finance brokers. So, look, good on you, BOQ, if you are committed and you can give us a little bit of visibility around that. We understand there may not be timelines, but, and there's probably going to be things that you're doing that you don't want to talk about directly. But, that's positive news.
Yeah, and we know that they're very active on the other side, the business lending side of things. We had that roundtable a couple months ago, and all the brokers spoke very highly of the way that BOQ operate in the broker space on that side of the channel. It's just, the home loans.
I read your piece, and it sounds to me that they've permanently exited from the channel and they're never coming back.
You reckon?
Resi? Yeah. Yeah, well, they've got ME, right?
Yeah.
And they pretty much say, that's going to be our broker brand. And Bank of Queensland sounds like they'll just keep doing their other lending other than Resi. I think they've exited.
I know Johnny's comments made it seem that way, but the person I was talking to who didn't want to be named, or, they pretty much assured that they were coming back without an official statement.
Okay,
so I suppose
a fair go.
It's still up in the air, but like I said, I'll be chasing you, Johnny. I'll find out this week now that you're back off leave, and we'll get a bit of an answer, get him on the podcast.
In practical terms, I think it is difficult, but not impossible, to re-engage with brokers. It's not just about policy and price. It's about, brokers get used to working with certain lenders, with BDMs, with credit teams, understand the process. And I think you get out of the habit of working with a particular provider if they're absent. And I think that becomes quite a challenge. So, we'll see. But let's see what the bank says.
Yeah, I mean, difficult, but not impossible to mend the relationships. A lot of the CBA articles we do still get some pretty nasty comments on them because people have lost a lot of that trust. But, you got to work to rebuild it.
CBA have historically just made noises that are counterproductive, but they've always been in market. They've never paused or halted anything, and I'm not going sort of I'm not revisiting water that is under the bridge. And we had a very positive interactions with CBA recently, quite contrite in terms of recognizing the things that haven't maybe communicated the right way, but they've always been in market, and this is the point. They haven't paused anything ever. There's been speculation about what they may be going to do, and comments from CEOs can be taken a particular way, but the bottom line is they've always been in market. So, but whereas BOQ has halted working with brokers, and it's just hard, and for whatever those reasons may be, it becomes hard to start that all up again. So,
Well, so Phil, you're saying that you reckon they're going to exit. What about you?
Well, I'm saying that based on the story I read on Broker Daily. It would. When do they pause? In August of last year. Look, we're nearly 12 months on. They're talking about digital transformation.
Is it that long ago?
Yeah, it's August
31st of August. It was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The thing is, and what did it say? 70% of their loans were broker originated.
Yeah.
Right? You have commentary in there from Troy Phillips, I think, in the original piece that you wrote about it, and he was pretty much saying, well, banks aren't very good at running one brand, so let alone two brands is going to clash and butt heads with it. So he sort of, to paraphrase him, he's pretty much going, okay, sure.
BOQ are not high volume. They're not a mainstay of the broker proposition. Now I'm sure there's brokers that work very effectively with BOQ products, and maybe they have a stronger footprint in Queensland than they maybe do down here in New South Wales, but they're not a high volume lender through the third party channel. So, but ME Bank, I believe, is very, very established, and as
ME Bank ranks really well on on the stuff that Broker Pulse does. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll leave it open. Come tell us.
Yeah. Well, we'll cover it. We'll see. It's all up in the air at the moment, but good to get some clarity. Johnny, I'll be in touch. We'll just throw to another quick break. We'll be back after this, and we're back with Broker Daily Uncut. We had a few sets of data come in last week around first home buyers. Surprisingly, South Australia becoming a top market for first home buyers. I don't know if it's just coincidence or not, but I've had a few mates make the move down to Adelaide, and purchased their first property down there.
As investors or
No,
to go live down
to go
there?
live down there.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
just due to affordability. Is that
Great city.
something that? Yeah,
It's a lovely place to live.
It is a nice city. Is that something that surprises you, or is that something that's always been pretty dominant?
I read the piece again in Broker Daily, and it's pretty much saying, your major capitals like Sydney are losing, thousands of people out to the regional areas and or interstate on a regular basis through affordability. Well, that's just a natural dynamic. If people can't afford to live where they are, they'll go somewhere where they can. And what sort of work is your mates doing down in Adelaide?
I got
a vibrant economy down there.
I got one who's a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And then others just in and around
Jobs.
professional, regular jobs.
But they're saying that LVRs are higher out in the regions than in the capitals, right?
Yeah.
And that is people are moving and probably going to the maximum borrowing, first home buyers out in the regions, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. And you can get a place down in Adelaide on the water for far cheaper than a place in Sydney on the water. The mates that I know that have moved down there are all living on the coast and in quite nice houses.
Livability is pretty good down there.
Yeah, it's a nice city. The first time I went to Adelaide actually was when you guys sent me down there for an event last year, and yeah, it's a nice city. It's funny though, on the weekends it's a bit like Canberra. Everyone clears out when there's no work in there in the CBD, so it's a bit empty there on a Saturday night, but a Friday night very vibrant and a lot of good people down there.
I can see a lot of reasons why people want to live there.
Mm. And but yeah, as the article said, a lot of people, disillusioned with living in Sydney City, Melbourne City. It's just becoming a bit too expensive. If we just look back to Anzac Day, I didn't go out on Anzac Day. A lot of mates I know didn't go out because it's just too expensive to spend a day out at the pub, drinking and spending money on two-up. It's
I still get shocked. Actually, I got inverse shocked when I went to my local RSL up on the
Can there be such a thing as inverse shock?
Inverse shocked, yeah. There was. My local RSL on the Central Coast, where I am a member, and I bought some beers and stuff. I'm like, that's so cheap, so cheap. Whereas you go get a schooner in a city, and like you're paying a ridiculous amount of money for it these days. So I sort of get it, right? Like this is the shock of the cost of living shock. Like you do notice it.
Yeah.
So the RSLs are still pretty cheap if you remember.
Oh, the regional RSLs are the best place to go out. It's you get a members card and you're paying a fraction of the price of what you do in Sydney. But yeah, so it's not surprising that people are packing up and leaving the cities. If you don't have to be here for the kind of work you do, it's a bit harder for us in the media being based in North Sydney. But a lot of tradespeople that I know move up to the Central Coast, Newcastle way, even further up the coast, and you get that coastal living again. You get a bigger place, you get just as much work, and you can live for a lot cheaper than you can in the city. Yeah, well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks again for listening, everyone. If you want to check out more content, visit brokerdaily.au. If you want to reach me directly, editor@brokerdaily.au. Chat to you again next week.